Yo, coming to you live from World Championship in San Jose. Welcome to the Living Legends podcast.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to yet another episode of the Living Legends podcast. What was our intro for this? Your one-stop shop for everything new and exciting about the world of Wraith?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is really, it really does sum up what we're here to talk about today, I think. And I know that I always say that we've got like something really exciting to talk about today. Because it's normally true, and it's no less true for this, because today we're going to be talking about the very recently revealed information for the upcoming set Outsiders.
Oh yeah.
So I know it was either last week or the week before we talked about the Christmas thing, the Christmas lore dump, which was really cool and did give us some amount of hints as to what we were going to see. But it also did kind of juke us out a little bit, and we'll be talking about that a little bit further. But before I get too far into it, I'm going to introduce my lovely co-hosts. So kicking it off first, I'll throw it over to Red Zone Rogue. This is Kel from Red Zone Rogue.
Hello. How's it going, everyone? My name is Kel from Red Zone Rogue. I'm really excited to talk about this, obviously. And this set has a lot of like firsts for Flesh and Blood, and it's really exciting. So I can't wait.
Absolutely.
It's going to be really exciting. I noticed that I startled you a bit. Usually I go in alphabetical order, and I decided to switch it up.
How dare you throwing us off like that?
Yeah, which then brings us, of course, next in anti-alphabetical order to Az from Go Again Gaming.
That's right, yeah. And as Bill rightly said, and as Kel is alluding there, we're going to be speaking about the awesome Outsiders reveal. I have got into this already with Jim from FAB TCG Cards, I might add, not Bill's brother there. But,
not Bill's brother.
Bryn, if you're listening to this, I'm just giving you a hard time. It's really funny.
Yeah, literally, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing your guys' thoughts on it as well. And yeah, I'm very excited for this, based on all the reveals that we've had, but I'm sure we'll get to that soon. So.
Oh yeah. I pushed out a video pretty quickly after it came out, so some folks may have already seen that, but I have more thoughts. So if you've already seen that, stay tuned. There will be new things to talk about.
New things.
Yeah. But before we get into that, even, let's talk about our weeks in Flesh and Blood. How about? I think we could do a little bit of a recap. I don't have really anything this week except for on Sunday, I'm going to be judging our local Pro Tour event.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that'll be tons of fun. That's like the schedule for it has it laid out to be basically like a full 8-hour day. So I'll just be there, watching people jam. And I'm actually really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good time.
Nice.
When I didn't judge it, but I helped kind of facilitate things for one of our local ProQuests last year, and it was like the entire day. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll just be there for a little bit. Nah, I was there for like
I was there the whole time.
A whole day, man. Yeah.
I'm expecting to get there at probably about 11:30 or 11:45 in the morning, and heading out probably no earlier than 8.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Because there's like a break for dinner and stuff. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good time. Excited for Soraya sleeves. I'll probably put my Prism deck in those Soraya sleeves.
Very cool. Yeah, those are really cool.
Yeah, and how about Az? What have you been up to, or what are you going to get up to? I think you have something important.
Yeah, so right now, for people that are watching the sort of visual version, will know that I'm not in my sort of LED lighting office, and stuff, and loads of random pictures in the background and that. So I'm actually in a hotel room at the moment, about to partake in the Battle Hardened Leeds, which is the sort of UK Battle Hardened event. So it's held in the north of the UK. Playing Azalea, of course. So I'm in the hotel room. We're going to be doing that tomorrow. So by the time this goes live, we'll be able to know what my results are for the next podcast, potentially. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. Probably the most important thing. And the Go Again Gaming Open happened last weekend, and Benji got to the final. Ooh. So funny that funny that obviously Benji was released recently, and Benji. You were speaking about Benji last week. We were, and you said, and Kel, you said, "Oh, there's probably not going to be ninjas in the set. No way." And then suddenly, bloody Benji and Katsu come out of nowhere. It's just like, what's going on here?
Like actually out of nowhere though. I don't think
Literally, no,
nobody would have guessed ninja. Like
not after Uprising,
yeah,
and stuff.
just
Dynasty and that.
ninja.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's kind of what I was alluding to when I said that we kind of got juked a bit. Because
Mm.
everybody, I'm pretty sure just about everybody, was like pretty convinced that we were going to get an alchemist in this set.
Yeah.
I was like
and
50-50. I was like I really wanted it, but I was like if LSS is feeling spicy, we're gonna get like an alchemist. I was more sure on something like brute or something
Yeah.
along those lines, not ninja. Like ninja was like the bottom of my list. Ninja was the bottom of my list with like rune blade and like
yeah,
I don't know, like illusionist, like as like not gonna be in the set 100%. But
well,
here we are.
especially like I think we had been talking about that as well. This is like a while ago now, but we kind of gave our thoughts about where we think we're going to go as like a roadmap for what versions or what areas of Wraith we're going to see coming up in the next X amount of sets.
Yeah.
And you'd think that they would save, especially the return of Katsu, for like the Mysteria
So
set.
Yeah.
I have a theory about this that I haven't talked about yet. I think we're getting Katsu here because we're not going to Mysteria for a while. I think we're getting Katsu and Benji and Ninja here because we're not going to be seeing them or seeing Mysteria stuff for a decent amount of time. I know a lot of folks are like, "Oh, Katsu, it means we're going to Mysteria next." I think it's the opposite. I think we have Katsu because we're not going to Mysteria at all this year. Maybe next year, but I'm pretty convinced that we're going to Metrics next. But
yeah, it's probably just
Makes sense.
an effort to tide over the ninja players.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I'm sure we'll get into everything that was spoiled. But yeah, Benji showed up, and it's good to see that he's just come out of nowhere again. And yeah, I've got a few spicy things about Benji as well when we get to it. But yeah, apart from that, that's pretty much my week going forward. So
nice.
Well, yeah. And how about you, Cal? What have you been up to?
You both are like doing stuff. I'm not doing anything, man. I'm just making YouTube videos. Pumped out that Outsiders video as soon as I could. It would have been even quicker if I wasn't napping. I had like a nice little midday nap, and then I woke up from the nap, and I don't remember. I think it was on Twitter. I saw like one of the images, and I'm like, this is fake, right? And then I just look up on the Flesh and Blood website. I'm like, not fake. Need to make a video like now. And so I literally just took all my gear upstairs to the studio and like started making the video. I didn't even read the whole thing before going into it. I think I said that at the start. I'm like, I haven't even read this whole thing. I just saw the heroes, and I need to talk. I need to talk about this because this is some crazy shiitake mushrooms going down here, man. Like,
yeah, I was honestly impressed with how quickly your video came out. It almost felt like, obviously this wasn't the case, but it almost felt like your video came out before the actual Outsiders info.
I mean, that would have been cool, but no. I just saw it and I was like, need to do this. Yeah, there's a lot of exciting things to talk about. So that's basically been my week. Just YouTube video, thinking about Outsiders. I've been mostly doing and thinking about stuff for some like different card games. But yeah, I'm really, really excited for Outsiders. So that's been like my all-consuming thing for Flesh and Blood for me for this week.
The omnipresent force in the room is the Outsiders reveal.
Oh yeah, I did the video, but I've also like chatted with a lot of folks about it, and I've seen a lot of like community speculation and a lot of stuff that we can talk about as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Some things I think are cool and I agree with. Some things I think are insane and probably not going to happen, but we'll see.
Well, you know what? We're all pretty excited about it, so why don't we just get straight into
let's do it.
The overview of what we're going to be talking about today. So yeah, this dropped on the 10th of January. So as of recording, that was 3 days ago. And there's just, it kind of flipped people on their heads a little bit, and there's a lot to be excited about. and we'll start off with they revealed all of the heroes. That are gonna
all
be
of
in the
them.
set. They didn't reveal what the heroes do, but we have their art and their names and their stat lines, so their intelligence and their health.
We
Um,
we also have their classes, but also their talents, because the classes go where the talents are, and
mhm.
none of them have a talent, which is
No.
weird as hell. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, we're really harkening back to the old days of Flesh and Blood. It
Yeah,
feels like it's
boy.
been a long time since we've gotten an untalented hero. Um, but yeah, so we do see that we have Azalea just as a straight up reprint. It's not a new hero card,
Crispy.
so it's the same one with the ability to put a card from your top of your deck into play and give it dominate. Still the same stat line at 4 intelligence and 40 health, or 20 for blitz. And I think that that's fine. I think that the issue with Azalea isn't her hero card; it's just the support that she has and how consistent
Card
it can
pool.
usually be. Yeah, it's the card
Yeah.
pool. I think her hero ability is actually like kind of
I-
gross.
It is, yeah. It's ridiculous.
I think it's the card pool, but also like what I always call the ranger tax. Rangers
Mhm.
always have to pay an extra resource for like everything that they do. And if anyone watched like that video that people were talking about, that was like the oh, they figured out the stats for all the Flesh and Blood cards, or how they stat line it. That works for all the cards except for ranger cards, which you have to pay an extra resource for all of them. Unless you're running redliner, but if you're doing that, then you're also not getting any value out of having your weapon. Yeah. So I think that's one of the big things that was holding it back. I think honestly, I think if Azalea was as it is, as she is, but like didn't have to filter everything through a bow, like if Endless Arrow was just a 0 for 4, that was like if it hits comes back to your hand, you don't have to do any bow shenanigans. Like how much better would that be? Like
Yeah, that card's
Mm.
busted.
or like so like all of her 1 for 5s aren't actually 1 for 5. They're like 2 for 5. Unless you like set it up a turn in advance, in which case you're like what do you call that? You have like the opportunity cost is like
Opportunity cost,
much
yeah.
much higher. Yeah. So it's like anyway, this is my little rant on how rangers are just kind of like inherently kind of gimped compared to some of the
Just-
other
Everybody that loves Rangers just got shafted, and hopefully this is the mark of the beginning of the end of that, where she can finally be something that actually gets living legend points with some consistency.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
But
I'd be really
I'm
excited to
glad.
see that.
Yeah, I mean, there's been speculations on this podcast like previously before. Well, obviously, we knew that after the Lyle Defidia podcast that James was on, he said that Azalea is going to be in the set. We didn't know to what capacity it was until now. Yeah, me and Jim were just, and the whole cult for that matter was in celebrations and all that sort of stuff, because we don't want that. We don't want a new Azalea. We want to play with the one that we know and love, all this time. So yeah, all she needs is new cards and new ways to play.
How
So
how do you guys feel about it being the same art, like not even new artwork?
I think it's
yeah.
fine. It may the one issue that I have maybe with the art is that compared to not even the quality, but just the style of current art, it maybe looks a little bit dated. Like you compare it immediately to the next person. We'll talk about the next card, but like you look at the next card and there's just a lot more like stuff, like detail and I don't know, it just feels like a more more realistic maybe picture. But
yeah,
for
in
Azalea, it
those,
definitely looks like a portrait, like a drawing almost, which isn't
yeah,
bad.
there's just nothing in the background. Like if you look at Riptide, Azuri, and Arachne, they got this like hue like behind them, whereas Azalea's just got like a backdrop. There isn't like a 3-dimensional sort of space there. So the art is. I know what you mean. I know what you mean when you're saying by that. Yeah, does feel a little bit old school.
Yeah, and again, there's nothing wrong with that. It just maybe sticks out as just a different style compared to the new cards. It would have been cool to see new art, but Just like the card itself, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it.
But
No.
before we move on from the art real quick, I also want to propose the question. This goes out to the audience as well. So obviously we don't have new art for Azalea or the other returning characters, which we'll talk about shortly. I think we might have already mentioned them on the podcast anyway, but they all have the same art. No new art. Do you think there's an opportunity? Okay, wait. Now that I think about it, this might not work. I was gonna say, do you think there's opportunity
see
for
where
an
you're going
alt
with
art
that.
version for this, like a special alt art version in the set? Unfortunately, I'm just gonna cut myself off here. We know there's only 3 Marvels in the set because we know
Yeah.
the full set breakdown, but that doesn't mean that the alt art has to be Marvel, because we have had alternate things happen that were not Marvel in sets. So, for example, in Uprising, we had the rewind, like the reverse rewind, right? That
Yeah.
technically wasn't a Marvel. It was like its own weird, alt rarity
Yeah.
thing. So,
Same with like Channel Lake Frigid from
Yeah.
Tales of Aria. Wasn't its own rarity. It was more rare, but it was still just a foil majestic with an alternate version to it. So I don't think that that's an unreasonable guess. I think that that's well within the possibilities here,
like,
which would be really cool.
Azalea is always wearing like this cloak. It'd be really cool to also see her with the hood up and like going for a shot or something. I don't know, like a dynamic picture, kind of like
more like an action shot.
like Tri-Shot,
or-
like how she is in Tri-Shot.
Oh
like
yeah,
Yeah.
where she's like actually mid-air. The art for
Yeah.
Tri-Shot is so good.
More like a money shot situation.
Sure, yeah, that.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
I was thinking of Az right when you said we see Azalea wearing this cloak, and I immediately auto completed it to something totally different in my head.
Totally out there and wild.
But anyway,
yeah. But yeah,
we do have more stuff to cover, so let's move on to the next hero before we get too lewd about Azalea.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so the next hero that we saw is another Ranger hero. He's both young version and old adult version. Riptide, Lurker of the Deep. And something that people are kind of a little bit freaking out about, like in a good way, is that in this reveal, they do mention that Riptide is a trap-based ranger.
That's
So
right.
we're getting a return of traps and maybe, I mean, hopefully a fixed version of traps, or at least ones that make more sense to play. But also,
yeah,
they deemed that he's strong enough to not start with 40 life. He has 38 life or 19 in Blitz. And we do know that that's sort of a way for them to tune heroes if they deem them to be too good in either their ability or their starting card pool. So
I have a lot to say about Riptide actually. Some of it is just like baseless. Well, it's not baseless, but like almost baseless speculation based off of the artwork. So like all of the Rangers on most of the artwork, and except for Young Azalea, I guess. Young Azalea. Well, I guess she has her hand on her bow, but like my point is that Riptide is not actually wielding a bow in his artwork. He does have a bow like on his back, but like the weapons that he's actually holding is a harpoon and like this anchor that's through like some dude's chest. Like he's like not actually wielding the bow. He's got it on his back. But that's not like what he's got going on. And even for the
focal point, is it? It's not the focal point of the art, is it? He's,
Yeah.
you can see that his hand is like this, and it's wielding this anchor and stuff, and the harpoon.
And
so yeah, it's not the focal point.
Yeah, the young version. Let me see if the full art. I think he is holding a bow in the young version. But in any case, I really think this opens up space, or at least fun speculation that we may not be getting just another bow. I do think we'll be getting a bow. I do think we'll be getting a aim counter bow, but I think we could also be getting something else for Ranger. Maybe maybe not Arachne, but maybe Riptide has some mechanic that lets them use like multiple weapons, like to swap them out. If you're playing like Diablo, you press W to swap your one weapon loadout with your other weapon loadout. Maybe he's got like something like that, and then the anchor harpoon thing helps with the traps. Maybe.
You know what would be really cool? Sorry,
No, go for it.
I just thought of this as like a totally baseless speculation thing. What if one of his abilities is to create like ephemeral weapons? Like basically him like getting another spear and then chucking it, and then getting another spear and chucking it.
like the tigers, almost like the crouching tigers.
Yeah.
Where they cease to exist afterwards. Yeah.
Like I don't know what the exact payoff for that would be outside of having it just be a like instead of that just having it be a non-ephemeral weapon, but maybe that's a way that they could have him like utilize different spears, like different arrows.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, you can conjure, one with poison or one that's on fire or whatever. Like that could be cool.
Well, if you look at him as well, if we look at the what's been spoiled so far, the 3 diseases, right? This guy looks like he's got all the bloody diseases, right? so maybe he can conjure these things and then like say, right, this next attack gets frailty tokens, or the next attack gets whatever the other disease is, or what have you. Because this guy looks like he's the living hypothesis of disease incarnate, basically.
Yeah, like that's
Prince of Nurgle.
Yeah, I mean he does kind of look like a nurgling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the other things I wanted to point out. So for the young version of him, and I'll swap to the picture of the young version for the viewers here. He just looks like a dude. Like he looks like a big thuggish dude, but he's just like a dude. But for the adult version, he looks jacked up. Like his arm is missing. He's got like a prosthetic arm. He's got like flesh hanging out. It almost looks like he's a bit bloodied. His face, like half of his face is missing flesh. Like he's almost got like this Two-Face thing kind of going on. And then from like the missing bits of flesh, we see like this green gaseous substance like coming out of his mouth. Like he looks undead. Like Riptide looks like a zombie. Like he looks like one of the, what do they call, like a bloater or whatever from like Left 4 Dead. The dudes who shoot and explode. Like he's got like these 3 heads like on his thing, so he looks like he's some sort of like headhunter. Riptide looks not well. Like if you were like he's a zombie,
some medical attention.
Yeah. So very.
It's like me after a night out. I've just got harpoon and stuff and anchor.
This is what happens when you have too many shoeys.
That's it, exactly. Yeah, the green breath and all. Yeah, man. Exactly.
So I'm really curious to see what they do with Riptide. Especially like Bill said, the whole like he's like a trap ranger, which is something that Ian and I actually have talked about before. We're like, yeah, there's got to be a trap ranger sometime, but he and I both suspected that we would see a trap ranger in the Savage Lands, because that makes sense, right? Like they're hunters, trappers in the Savage Lands, like trapping large beasts and all that kind of stuff. Like,
well, that's what a ranger is. If you look at the D&D, sort of classification of a ranger, they are the ones that that settle on the fringes of societies and hunt the monsters and stuff, so that they don't threaten the population. That's what they do. They're like hunters and rangers, aren't they? Almost hunters. So hunters use traps to capture the monsters and all sorts. So that is the description of it, really.
You know what rangers also do in D&D? They use melee weapons as well. There we go.
They do.
Full circle. Okay. That's another thing I want to talk about. Really quickly while we're on Riptide, because I suspected that there's going to be another weapon. I suspect that there will be 2 token weapons per class. So we have 2 heroes per class with a total of 6 heroes draftable. I also suspect that we will have a weapon for each as well. So 6 token weapons.
I think that's reasonable.
And then you can like mix and match. So like Azalea will have her aim counter bow. Riptide will have whatever the hell they're doing with traps. Like maybe it's the harpoon or whatever. Harpoon and anchor or something. But that is one of my suspicions, is that we're going to get multiple weapons in the set.
I could definitely see that, because it would feel redundant if the heroes, like if we had 2 different heroes per class that use the same weapon, because then that kind of implies that they are the same playstyle.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't be like it wouldn't be a very good use of the space. So I think that's a pretty pretty good bet as well.
And on top of that, we also know that there are 20 tokens in this set, which is a lot. There are 20. Obviously, we know that there are going to be 6 of the tokens are going to be the heroes, the 6 heroes, but that means that leaves 14 other tokens available. So if you include all the weapons, that's another 6 weapons, right? So that's 12. If you
There'll probably be
that's still
there'll
8.
probably be like ponder and stuff in the set as well, because of the Marvel card that we've seen as well, because that creates ponder tokens and frailty tokens and all that sort of thing.
Probably going to be ponder, frailty. I would assume quicken, because we have Katsu. Katsu usually likes
maybe
possibly. We
there
also
might be-
might have tokens for the other 2 plagues. That still leaves room for more, a couple more, I think.
But still, it's a lot of tokens.
Anyway, so that's my little theory here.
So moving on to the next hero that we got to see, I'm going to skip over. I'm going to skip over the 2 only young ones and just talk about them last, I think, because they're sort of a little bit separate from the rest of this. But there's a young assassin and a young ninja. We'll talk about those later. But for in the main assassin, the main assassin here that comes in both adult and young is Uzuri Switchblade. And we don't know anything else about her, I don't believe, because we have a spider operative assassin. So I mean, that's kind of what we assumed anyway. We know that the spider is sort of this organization of assassins. So that she's aligned with them makes sense.
We do know one other thing, that the other 2 ninjas play a part in her story. Because it specifically says a duo of wandering Mysterian ninjas threatened to trigger memories of Uzuri's origin, a time and place where she didn't fit in, where she felt like an outsider. And I think that is reflected upon in her young art and young card border, with Uzuri having the Mysterian border rather than the Pitts border.
Which is the first time we've seen something like that, and is really cool from like a lore standpoint.
And also, like, it helps reinforce this sentiment that I don't think there's going to be a talent in the set, or if there is, it's going to be weird, like super weird, because obviously none of these cards have any talent written on them. You can see if you're watching, here's Uzuri, she's young. It says just assassin hero young, no talent on the bottom. And I think if they're going to do something like this, now is the time to do it, because there's no talent, so they can have a hero, untalented, have the Mysterian border, but no talent, so it doesn't really matter what the talent is, that it corresponds to a border, and then have the young version have the Pitts border, which once again doesn't really, denote the talent other than, that she's from the Pitts. Because typically the talent also denotes like the border, right? Because like if you think about Draconic, the Draconic talent border is the same as Phi's and Dromai's border, because they're Draconic talent characters. So they're actually able to do that here with Uzuri, which is cool. I think it's really cool. Some stuff like this makes me wonder if this came before, like if the flavor came before or after the design, right? Like if they were like, we're gonna have no talents in the set, and then the creative team was like, oh, now we can actually like do the double border thing. Or if the creative team was like, hey, we have this character who starts off one thing and then becomes another thing, make that work for gameplay. Like, I'm curious as like which one came first. I would assume the gameplay and the mechanics come first, but I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think that's a question we could, put in the back pocket for when James White's on the podcast.
Just how did this come about, sort of thing. It was really interesting to think about. But yeah, so She that is kind of the big thing that we do know about Azuri right now, is that her young version has the Mysteria border, her old version has the Pitts border,
Yep.
which is again very interesting. First time we've seen that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she just has a regular stat line, so 4 intellect and 20 or 40 health and 20 health for Blitz.
Yep.
Yeah, really interesting to see what is going to happen with that.
She's also wearing the Black Tech Whispers in the adult art.
Oh yeah.
Like that's the boots that she's wearing. So just pointing that out.
And the other two characters are behind her as well on her art. The other two characters are there, aren't they? Riptide and Arachnia in the background.
Yeah, they're like all homies.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're all spider assassins then, even Riptide. Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's possible. I think it's more likely that he's like either sort of aligned with that sort of like undercity,
so they
organization
say,
type deal.
I think Bill said it earlier, but they say that she's part of she's a ringleader of a band of misfits that includes a new version of Arachne and Riptide, a trap-based ranger. So that must be like the band of misfits. Like, so I don't think they're all necessarily spider assassins. She's just kind of like, they're just like happen to be spider assassins, but they're also part of her own little gang or whatever.
They're just homies. Yeah. But speaking of other heroes, I suppose, that are not part of the Band of Misfits, we also have another reprint of a hero, this time from Welcome to Wraith, and same deal, no change, so it's the same art, same effect, everything like that, and this one is Katsu the Wanderer.
Yeah.
So one of the original heroes from as part of the game. He's completely unchanged, so still 4 intellect, 40 health, and his ability to tutor up cards with combo, basically at will once a turn. So I'm excited about this because I actually really like combo as a mechanic. I think that the way that it was initially implemented just made things a little bit too narrow. I think something that they have kind of done, I can't think of any examples, but I'm sure there's at least one, where a combo can sort of branch into multiple things. Like there's a starter. So for example, like with the old combo cards, it would be like, instead of having leg tap and head jab and the other one from there, you just have like one, and then it sort of branches off into different finishers. So your deck doesn't just become, okay, well, I want to play this finisher, so I have to play all of the cards that lead up to that, and there's no overlap. And same thing with, if I wanted to play Blackout Kick, then I would need all those too.
Yeah.
I think that is something that is like not unreasonable to expect from this, that maybe we're going to get, combo cards that are slightly more flexible. Maybe there's a little bit more overlap. That's at least my hope. That's on the top of my list for this. But what do you guys think about a Katsu reprint? Kind of unexpected.
Very unexpected. And like Bill was saying, we will like 100% have combo cards in the set. Like it's a draft. It's a draft set. Like you have to have the combo cards to make a draft deck with Katsu. So like there's gonna be a bunch of combo cards in the set for sure. So
you got combo cards. You've got also the stealth mechanic as well. So is there going to be other keywords as well that other heroes have? Do you think as well, like new ones or erratas of existing abilities?
Well, like we already know that James said that aim counters are going to be in the set. Or
of course,
So we have like
counters.
So we already kind of loosely know some of the mechanics. So we have combo for ninja, we have aim counters for ranger, and then we have stealth for assassin. We don't really know what stealth does, and we don't know how the aim counters are going to like pan out, and we also don't know if there's going to be like multiple mechanics per class. So for example, like we mentioned, Riptide and Azalea. Like if the aim counters are more for Azalea, and then Riptide has like his own new mechanic, maybe that has to do with traps or something. And maybe there's like another mechanic like that works well with Benji. So like maybe stealth actually like could be a assassin and ninja mechanic that like it's best for like Benji and then also Yuzuri or something. So like
Yeah.
we'll see how it works out, but I think they have a lot of design space here because if there's not going to be a talent, that means there's going to be a lot more card slots available for them to play around with, and we'll get to it later, but I suspect that we're going to get a certain type of card instead of the talent stuff, and I think those type of cards could have like crossover mechanics, like stealth could be a crossover mechanic, for example.
I jive with that idea. I think that's, especially from what we've seen, we've alluded to the Codex of Frailty, one of the marvels that's already been revealed, and I think that specifically sort of lends a lot of weight to that. A lot of I think that's pretty reasonable to think as well. I think that so far all of your assumptions feel like they're based in like pretty realistic territory.
I'm trying to think about it from like, if I was a game designer designing a draft set, what makes the most sense to me for like both like functionality, but also like what would make a good, fun, enjoyable draft set. And all this stuff makes sense to me, right? Like just having one mechanic for each class, even though you have two heroes, doesn't make a ton of sense. The same way like only having one weapon doesn't make a ton of sense. So having like maybe each, this is what I'm thinking. Like maybe each class has like one like hard mechanic. Like combo is like a ninja mechanic, does not cross over. But stealth is a ninja and assassin thing. So maybe each class has like a hard mechanic that doesn't cross over, but also like a tertiary mechanic that does cross over. And so like you have, each class has technically two mechanics you can play around with. But
each class has one main mechanic, and then there's like a shared mechanic.
Yeah, exactly.
Between another class. I like that idea. Yeah. I think that could definitely work. But that rounds out the main sort of heroes, the ones that come in both young and old. So for the two young heroes that I sort of alluded to previously, I'm going to start with the less exciting of the two, I guess, because it's just another straight up reprint. Less exciting is completely relative in this way because I'm actually really excited to see this one again. I really like this hero, but we're getting a full 1-to-1 reprint of Benji the Piercing Wind from Crucible War.
Yeah.
So
downshifted from rare.
Yeah, downshifted from rare, now just a token.
Yeah, you're just
wow.
Get on our level, Benji. Get on our level. You're a token now.
But yeah, so I think that's going to be interesting too. I think that this as well, just the way that his mechanic works, it sort of aligns with what I'm thinking of for the like stealth mechanic somewhat.
I was on board with that idea before I saw the reprint, because the first time I made a video about this and I talked about it. They had the old version of Benji on the website, but now they updated it. It has the Outsiders version of Benji. If you look at the card, it has Outsiders on the bottom, and nothing has changed. So if it was the stealth mechanic, they would have just retconned it to be like Benji has stealth, like stealth 2 or whatever. So I think it's going to be slightly different.
I don't think that his mechanic is stealth. I think that it will just be something complementary.
For sure.
Like I think that it will play nicely with what stealth wants to do.
I agree. Yeah.
So I'm excited to see if I'm correct. Again, I really like the playstyle. I love Spring Tidings, one of my favorite cards. It's just super fun.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what other goodies they potentially give him.
What was that mechanic from Magic the Gathering where you could not block creatures with greater power could not block you?
There's Menace and then Skulk. Skulk, I think is what it is.
Skulk.
Yeah,
maybe something like that.
Intimidate and Skulk. Yeah.
Maybe cards with more defense than the attack cannot be defended, like that sort of thing, like Skulk does.
Could be interesting.
Yeah, but I agree with what you said, Bill. That's kind of why I was like, oh, maybe stealth is like a ninja and also assassin mechanic because of Benji feels like he's operating in that kind of space.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Mm.
And then
they're all getting blitz decks as well. Every single one of them is getting, which is strange because obviously Arachne on this article is a young hero, but in Dynasty he was an adult hero. So is this a time jump or what's going on here?
Well, we'll get into Arachne right now, actually.
Yeah. So the other young hero that only comes in young is Arachne Solitary Confinement.
Dead Summer Art on Twitter was like, he says like, oh, this is a great reveal or something like that, and then I commented like, yeah, Arachne Solitary Confinement because they killed everyone else in the room, and if you look on the art, there's just like everyone else is dead. So
just dead.
Didn't start out as solitary confinement, but became solitary confinement because they killed everyone. They're all dead.
They created their own solitary confinement.
Yeah.
I think that's really funny. But we don't have any other information really about how this Arachne differs from the Dynasty Arachne, other than this one has 19 life. So 4 intellect, 19 life. It is slightly nerfed in the health category.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see what really makes this one different than the other one. I think we were kind of throwing around the possibility that maybe contract didn't work as well in a draft format, or they wanted to sort of explore different parts of the assassin playstyle, and this one just works with it a little bit better.
Yeah.
But definitely interesting to see them print a new version of a hero that we just got.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see why exactly that decision was made.
Yeah, I mean, like, because we have Arachne here, a new Arachne, I guess one can assume then that contract is not a mechanic in the set, because contract was a mechanic in the set that was featured prominently, then you would have just used the Arachne that we already have. So the fact that we have a new Arachne tells me that contract is very much likely not in this set in a meaningful way. I mean, we could still have like a majestic, one-off here or there, but not for draft purposes, or not like a core mechanic for like building and theming your draft deck around. I also would like to note that this Arachne, we can finally see, if you zoom in on the art, what their lump is, and it's like this massive tumor thing. It's like this gross tumor thing.
Gross.
And I think that leads credence to what my original theory for Arachne is that they were one of the orphans picked up by the scientists of metrics and then experimented on. And so they're probably just experimented on the crap out of, and then that's how they got this weird tumor thing.
Yeah. I mean, it would certainly explain their murderous tendencies.
Yeah, Arachne does love killing. If you read the Dynasty lore, Arachne was just like, boy, I sure do love killing. Like, that's basically it.
Well, if you look at the art as well, the art on solitary confinement, it's just like skinned them alive almost. There's nothing left of the poor people that Arachne was left with.
Killed them real good. Like, there's a good
those people died comfortable deaths.
There's a good like Rick and Morty thing where the guy's just like, here I go killing again. Like, oh, here I go killing. Boy, I sure do love killing. Like, that's Arachne.
Sure, I do love killing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that rounds out all of the 6 new heroes that are coming out.
Yeah.
Or sorry, 4 new heroes, 3 new heroes, 3 returning heroes.
Yeah. But 6 heroes to draft around, which is really cool for draft. I do want to point out real quick though, each class has a hero that has 20 health, and then each class also has a hero that has less than 20 health. Possibly for like balancing reasons. So I don't know. That's just something to point out. I thought it was interesting how they kept that parity. There's no class that has both like 2 20 health heroes for draft. There's always one that has 20, one that has less than 20. The lowest being Benji with 17. But possibly the strongest and most evasive ability out of them. Benji's ability...
Is that what it alludes to then, isn't it? So obviously the lesser life alludes to something that's not, not easily blocked then, or not easily damage that's not easily dealt with. Like for instance, Benji's got unblockable.
I think it just means that they think it's stronger because like we have like the Emperor with 15 health, we have Icelander and Kano with less health.
So wizards, wizards will have a lesser life because obviously you can only AB4 and they can do more damage than that. So there's damage always going through somehow. You can't prevent everything.
And then there's
it's more of like an evasive thing.
And there's like KO, which is like a random, you can sometimes high roll into it. And then if you think about the ones that have more health, I think it feels like a flavor thing for those. You have Volda and Yoji. And they're like big tanky characters. Even though I think Volda has a very strong hero ability.
Yeah, I think so too. But it probably is also just because her ability kind of pushes you towards like setting something up, like having a couple of setup turns and then having a big turn.
Yeah.
So giving her a couple, or I think it's actually 1 extra life point, just to sort of throw her a bone.
It makes me wonder if they designed Ira right now, if Ira would have less health than 20.
I would say probably. I think just from like a consistency standpoint and just how much damage she's able to present on average each turn, I think that she's like still a really strong hero, even though she's the first one that was ever released. Yeah, I think that her ability is just so generic and it happens all the time, basically, regardless of what you're doing, as long as you attack twice. Yeah, I think that Ira's like probably above the curve for heroes.
Oh, yeah.
Ira's really good. So I really want to talk about the next thing, unless you guys want to talk about. Oh, I do want to mention one more thing. Actually, I'm sorry. As mentioned it, but I think it's really important to note that all of these heroes will be getting their own blitz deck. So there are actually 6 new blitz decks. So we have six heroes, 6 new blitz decks, and 3 of those blitz decks will be Benji, Katsu, and Azalea, which is super interesting. Heroes that previously did not have. Well, Katsu technically had a starter deck, but it was a 60-card hero deck, not a blitz deck. So it's really interesting. I also think this opens up the space for more mentors, but probably not because we have 6. We have 6 freaking decks. So
a lot of them, yeah.
Probably won't have 6 new mentors, which is kind of a bummer. I kind of want to see more mentors, to be honest.
Yeah,
but
me too.
I think this is great. I think this is actually setting up to be an amazing set for new players because, one, it doesn't look like we have a talent, which talents are just inherently slightly more complicated. And also, you have 6 different options to choose from if you're a new player. You can just kind of pick and choose which one you like the most, which I think is super cool. So I think, if you're a new player or just a starting player, Outsiders is looking to be a really great set to jump into. Because it looks like the mechanics are going to be a little easier to understand. We haven't seen a lot of the cards, but we do know that James said that it's like returning to fisticuffs kind of deal, and we've seen these characters. We see there's like no like talent kind of thing going on that we can see at least. To me, rough first impressions is that it'll be a lot more new player friendly, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I think so too. Especially just because, one of the most powerful things about Flesh and Blood from a new player perspective, at least in my opinion, is just the ability to sort of like latch onto a hero, see the artwork of, like Riptide is just such a like an imposing character and a very unique card design, especially within Flesh and Blood, I think right now.
Yeah.
But it really is one of those things where as an outsider, you look at it and you're like, oh my god, what does this guy do? I want to play a deck that like uses this guy and his huge anchor thing. Like, it's just sick.
I think it's like a double-edged sword for Flesh and Blood, to be honest. I think it's great, like awesome, but also I think it's one of those situations as a content creator, I see it every time I get excited about a new set because I just love the sets. But you'll have the people who are like, Warrior's not in the set, don't care, or like, Runeblade's not in the set. Don't boring. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah,
not a
that is
lot of people, but you do get those people who say stuff like that.
Yeah, which isn't like it's not necessarily an unreasonable take to have either,
Well, yeah.
because
I know
like
they're not in the wrong. I'm just saying, like for Flesh and Blood side, like as the game and LSS, it's kind of a double-edged sword. So you do have these like very loyal fans, but at the same time, the fans might not care as much about a new set if it doesn't have the one character that they play or whatever.
That's why they have to. That they still have to push like mechanical boundaries on the sets that might not interest other people. So like if you're a an illusionist main, then you're gonna look at this set thinking, oh, what's different, what's new, what's innovative about it to suck me into it, rather than just wait for illusionist set. Whereas this is new hybrid cards, new things that do this. I think they need to keep pushing those boundaries, don't they, in order to suck those players in that don't necessarily play the class that's in here.
I think having a very good limited environment helps with that, because
definitely.
it could incentivize people to play the game of Flesh and Blood without having to buy in on a new class or whatever. You could just go to your local event, play in the draft, sell all the. I know people who do this, who mostly they used to do this for Magic, but people could do this for Flesh and Blood too. You go to your draft, you just draft, and then you sell all your cards. That's it. Like you just go to play your event, and then doesn't matter. Like you don't really care about whatever. A lot of those folks do well. They make their money back, and maybe a couple extra bucks from their pricing. And I think that's where you get over that kind of like hurdle, I guess you could say.
definitely.
I mean, obviously,
It's a
Flesh
good
and
way
Blood
to
does.
experience it.
Yeah, obviously, Flesh and Blood does the expansion sets with like all of the support, but it sounds to me like I think they want to move away from that, having it as often. I think James said something along the lines of he wants 2 draft sets and 1, or maybe 3 draft sets and 1 expansion set a year, if I remember right. I think they want to get to the point where they can have 4 sets a year, and most of them be draft sets. Which makes sense to me because they probably want their draft sets to correspond to the pro season. So all of the big main pro events has a draft component or limited component. So you have like your Pro Tour 1 draft, Pro Tour 2 draft, Worlds, draft or sealed or whatever. But for different sets. Anyway.
Yeah, draft does really get people through the door.
Yeah.
And it gets people trying more than one thing as well, doesn't it? Get to see everything.
Limited, in my opinion, is like the great equalizer. It's the a lot of folks who say stuff like, "Oh, I can't play TCGs; they're too expensive" or whatever. I think draft and limited help alleviate that a little bit. Obviously, you have to pay for the draft, but it's not as like oh, you don't have a tunic, so you can't play X deck as optimally as possible. It's draft, right? Like it's random. Like everyone has the same even footing, not counting player experience and skill and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
So, let's move on to something else that's really exciting that we've kind of touched on a little bit already. But this is the first set to get hybrid cards. And so you might be asking, if you haven't seen it before, or if you weren't paying attention when Az was talking about it, what are hybrid cards? So they are, there's going to be, I guess, 3 of them that we know of in the Marvel slot, I think is kind of what they're alluding to here. There are probably going to be more within the set that are sort of maybe less impactful or something, but I do think that there is going to be more than just the Marvels as hybrid cards. But the example that we have here is a card called Codex of Frailty. And it is an assassin / ranger action. So it can be played in either an assassin deck or a ranger deck. It's just a regular action. Defense for 2, costs 0, and is yellow pitch. And it's a majestic, so it only comes in yellow. And I just want to talk about the card itself for a second here.
Yes.
So the effect is each hero puts an attack action card from their graveyard face down into their arsenal. Each hero that does discards a card. Create a ponder token under your control and a frailty token under each opponent's control. Go again.
I love this card, man. And
Yeah.
the fact that it's a ranger assassin card is just like extra icing. It's like my two favorite classes, so it's just like, here you go. But before we talk about the mechanics, I just want to talk about one quick thing. The border is super cool. Half of it is the ranger border, and the other half is the assassin border.
Yeah.
I love
That's
this.
nice.
They're also one. It's a small touch, but there's a watermark on the card, which
Mhm.
I don't know exactly what it signifies yet. I think it has to play into the quote talent of the pits.
Mm.
This is my big prediction for the split cards. I actually think the split cards might be the talent, or at the very least, filling in for the talent cards in the set in terms of draft, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
for Uprising, you had your Draconic cards and your Ice cards or whatever. But I think in this one we'll have, instead of those, we'll have these split cards. So
I could definitely see that, especially having like, each of the pairs sort of has their own talent or their own like theme or whatever.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
and
I think that that's reasonable.
and it feels better for draft in terms of, how do I want to put this? So in Welcome to Wraith, right, you had your class cards and then you had generic cards, right? And so you could pick generic cards very highly because like they go in any deck, right? So if you open up an E-Strike, you're probably just going to take the E-Strike because you can put it literally in any single deck that you play, right? These cards meet somewhere in the middle, and I think it's really smart because you still have to make a decision, right? But it also still makes you open. So if you open up the Codex of Frailty and you take it, it's an Assassin Ranger card. You could pivot between either Assassin and Ranger, and also that's 4 different heroes for this set, right? Because there's 2 heroes per class. So if like
Yeah.
just as a draft experience, I think this is super super smart because it lets you kind of stay open, but also sort of get into a lane. It doesn't railroad you into it, and it still also allows you to pivot like late in the draft too. So if you have picked like a bunch of Assassin Ranger cards and you're like, okay, well, I could either be Assassin or Ranger, and then you open up like a bomb Ranger card, you can be like, okay, now I'm gonna go
Here we go.
Ranger,
Yeah.
right? But that also makes it so you
Or
can pick up
Cazalia.
like Ranger Ninja cards or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think it's super smart overall. Before we start talking about what this particular card like actually like why we're excited for this one in particular, I just think the hybrid cards are a really cool design space, and I think it's really smart.
Yeah, I definitely think that it was like probably an inevitability, just based on
Yeah.
how like talents and classes work. But I like what I've seen thus far because this doesn't necessarily feel like exclusively a ranger or exclusively an assassin card. I mean, there's a little bit that we're missing. Obviously, we don't know what the frail token does. But yeah, I like the sort of rebuy that it gives both classes because rangers care about their arrows and assassins care about like especially the attacks that we've seen already from Dynasty. They are pretty situational in that you have a contract that you want to fulfill specifically or an effect that you want to reuse. You can do that now without having to play something like Remembrance or Memorial Ground.
Yeah.
I love the fact that this applies to every hero, which tells me that they're thinking about multiplayer a lot more when designing cards. So not just UPF, but also if PvE is a multiplayer format, which I'm pretty sure it is. Like I really like how they're incorporating that into more cards.
Yeah, just be aware of it now, aren't they? Just saying each hero instead, just to
Yep.
just to future proof a little bit.
Yeah, I think this card is also just really sweet, by the way. Like, I think Codex of Frailty is like, I really want to play it. I think it's legit. The fact that you get a Ponder token. Ponder tokens are huge, man. It gives you like a 5-card hand. It lets you draw an additional card at the end of your turn. So like, that's awesome. And then
it
also
immediately negates the downside that it has for you specifically.
Yeah.
I guess not immediately, but it does, fix it up.
And this card also
breaks
has
that barrier.
Go Again, so you could play the card that you get back immediately as well.
Mhm.
So like you can, if you're Azalea, you can Codex of Frailty, Red in the Ledger, and then immediately fire it off. Like Like, this is just another way, but it's going to be so annoying. This is another way to get Red in the Ledger back. Like,
Gotcha.
yeah, you can't dominate it because it puts it in the arsenal, not on the top of the deck. So you can't do her thing to do the dominate thing, but you still get it, right?
You still get it, and
It's
also
basically
the way that it's.
yeah, sorry, carry on.
Oh, I was just going to say, the way that it's templated, the discarding isn't like a cost or anything. So if this is the last card in your hand, it just gets you the card from your graveyard and gets you a ponder token. And is not card. It's like card positive. If you are able to make it the last thing that you play, which is like kind of crazy, honestly.
You need some floating resources to do this, but I can see you go like pump, pay for one of the pumps and float some resources, and then Codex of Frailty something back, and then play that with the pumps active, and you don't even have to discard anything. Like that seems cool.
It's also a reload from your graveyard. So you basically, if you haven't activated your Skullbone Cross Wrap for the turn, you can actually still go a card deep, even with 0 cards in hand. If you got this 1 card in your hand, it can fix the Ranger brick hand. Because you play this, you get a 0 cost arrow back from your graveyard, which is put in face down. You can then use the Cross Wrap to opt to see what's on top. If you do want to dominate a 1 cost arrow, if you've got a tunic available, for instance, you can go loads of different ways with it. It is very good. You don't get, I say, you don't get the dominate straight away, which is a bit of a shame. But this is also a clone of any arrow in your deck at any time. So yeah, it's pretty good.
I also really like that it just says any attack action card. So like like if you're Lexi, the fact that it puts it face down. So if you put an ice attack action card or a lightning, you can flip it up and get value out of Lexi's hero ability, either giving the next thing go again or giving them a frostbite token.
Did not think of Lexi. Yes,
I think this card's legit. I think this card's sweet, even though we don't even know what Frailty does, and it's probably like a pretty decent effect. A lot of folks are like, oh, it probably gives them -1 to their block or something, or to their next attack or something like that.
I mean, even if it was that, like, it's tacked on to already a very good card. So it's just additional icing.
The one joke that I made when I first saw this card though was like, all of my assassin cards block for 3, but the fact that this one's a ranger card means that it has to block for 2. And I'm like,
oh yeah, definitely.
Just the ranger part's just dragging it down. Like that's where the 2 block comes from. Like that's the ranger side.
Yeah.
Disastrous consequences.
Oh mate, I was playing in the hotel lobby earlier when I was playing Azalea, and there was a moment where I probably could have taken the game, but I had to block 3, and guess what I had in my hand? 2 block 2s, and I had to block both of them because I was on 3 life, so I had to block the lethal. So it's just, well, no, I was on 1. I can't remember what the maths was, but if I wouldn't have blocked, I would have died. So I must have been on 1 life. So if I committed 1 3-block card, it would have been all right. But I had to block with 2 cards and therefore not leak any damage. So yeah, the 2 block is pretty rough. But yeah, I really like this as well. I do really like it. And it's if you've only got this in your hand, you can get that 0 cost arrow back, and because you get a ponder as well, you also draw up to 5 essentially, don't you? Because the ponder cracks off before you arsenal. Is that right? I think I was speaking to Jim about this.
Yes.
Yeah, ponder happens at the end of your turn. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you draw and then you arsenal.
Be able to draw
the
the card,
end.
then decide. So
yeah. So yeah, it's very good.
This card just sets you up like really, really well, just on its own, which is nuts.
And then we haven't even talked about the Marvel version of this, which is like I think it's this really cool like research notes thing. And I do want to point out, I saw this on Twitter, and I saw it got a lot of attention on Twitter. Sloop Dupe was like, oh, this is one of the cards from 3 of a Kind. It is definitely not one of the cards from 3 of a Kind. It is literally in the artwork for Codex of Frailty for the normal version. If you look and zoom in, it is like by the mushrooms in the top left. You can see it. It is literally like a research page from the Codex. Which I think it's super, super cool. But the cards, by the way, that are in 3 of a Kind, those are the contract cards that they get from Blackjack's Tavern to fulfill the contracts, which I hope show up in, which I hope do show up in the set. But this is not that. This is something different.
Yeah, but what are the codexes? Like Codex of Frailty. There's obviously going to be 2 other codexes, but what are they? What are they?
They probably have to do with the 3 diseases, the 3 deadly diseases.
That's what I would assume as well.
Yeah, maybe there's like a
The-
codex of enfeeblement and a codex of insanity or something. I don't know.
Oh
Codex
yeah.
of Command and Conquer.
Yeah.
This is not Dynasty.
Codex of Channel Mount Heroic.
You know, it'd be like codex of Enlightened Strike.
Yeah,
They'll be
brilliant.
like in the release notes, they'll be like, oh, by the way, here's a banned and restricted announcement. We're banning Rosetta Thorn. It doesn't exist anymore. But here's a Codex of Rosetta Thorn.
Yeah. Watch out.
Equip a Rosetta Thorn. That's what it does. Destroy your current weapon. Equip Rosetta Thorn.
Oh no! Well, from outside the game as well. You don't even have to have any sideboard. It's like a wish card almost. Yeah. just
This version
go
of the
and grab
Rosetta, it gets +1 to all effects. So it
plus
attacks
1, then yeah.
Just everything.
attacks. Yeah, +1.
And you don't have
all
to
of-
play a
all of your
non-attack
cards have
and an
plus
attack either.
It's
Yeah,
like
just
Go ahead.
yeah. Just gonna say yeah. Just simply pay 1 pitch, swings for 5, and then does 4 arcane damage or something
Oh yeah,
as well.
there's like a
Got it.
D&D
Yeah.
weapon. Rosetta Thorn +1 or +1 Rosetta Thorn.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh god. Yeah,
Anyway.
that would be the day, wouldn't it?
Well, we don't. Luckily for us, we don't have to deal with any room blades in this. Any filthy, dirty, stinking room blades in this set.
That we know of.
Some people in the comments of my previous video were still like, alchemist could still be in the set, and I'm like, sure. Like technically sure they could be like sandbagging it, even though they literally said these are the heroes and these are the blitz decks. Sure. To me, that is pure copium. It's just someone who's just like trying to will it into existence. I do not think there will be another hero in the set.
I think the only way that happens is if they're the fabled at this point.
Okay, I should put that. I do not think there will be another draftable class in the set. I'm gonna put that.
Yeah, there won't be another token hero.
Yeah,
No.
and I don't
It's
think
pretty open and shut.
even if it was, man, like the way this is set up, it feels like we're gonna have a lot more class cards with the hybrid. So we'll have a lot of hybrid class cards and probably not as many generics. So like even then, I don't think the possibility of having like a alchemist or something, you couldn't even be able to play like anything, even if you drafted it.
Yeah, it would be like it would be the equivalent of what they did with Arachnean Dynasty, except with fewer cards, like fewer actual attacks and whatever. Just less support in general.
It's a draft set, so like I don't think so at all.
Yeah, it would be like a lot worse.
Yeah. So yeah, all of the Lena Bell stands, you're probably gonna have to wait till the next set at the very, very earliest to see.
Like, don't get me wrong, I was excited to see Lena Bell, but it's just not gonna happen. It's not
because she's already dead. She's on Cav Dane's wall.
Yeah, we got a comment on the last podcast we were talking about that, and they were like they'd be very, very sad if she was already dead. And I'm like, yeah, me too.
Well,
she seems cool.
The next codex is going to be Codex of Lena, mate, and it's going to be her head on the table.
It's just going to be like the Necronomicon.
Yeah.
Necronomicon.
Codex of Lena. Absolutely.
God,
yeah,
that would be sad.
But I am excited for the hybrid cards and the Codex of Frailty. It's going to be, it's going to be sweet. I really, really think that they are setting this up to be an incredible draft experience. Yeah, I just can't wait for it. It's going to be awesome. Were we going to talk about the nuts and bolts stuff? We've already been talking for over an hour, but if we're not, I do want to mention one thing that I think is super important before we move on to other stuff. And that is just the languages that this comes out in. Outsiders will be launched in English, French, German, Italian, and Spanish for both the booster set and all 6 of the Blitz decks. This will be the first time a Flesh and Blood set has launched simultaneously in multiple different languages, which I think is an incredibly big deal. Because previously, a lot of those places are just relying on History Pack 1, basically. And this is their first new set. So like think about that. Like I know a lot of us who listen to the podcast or who are in the podcast who listen to the podcast, we're English speakers. We have this stuff already. So for us it's like, whatever, we have it. But imagine being into Flesh and Blood. Say you're French. So you're in France, you love Flesh and Blood, but none of the cards are in your language except for History Pack 1, but you still play it because you love it, even though it's like more difficult for you. This will be the first time you can actually experience like a pre-release and a draft and everything in your language. Like I think it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Not having to it's kind of, it wouldn't feel great to want to play this game and if you're not good at English, which nobody's expected to be.
Even English speakers aren't good at English.
Yeah,
No, we're not.
like that would feel kind of bad, but yeah, having that experience where you don't have to internally translate everything. Whether or not the actual translations themselves are accurate, which is something that we did.
Hopefully,
we did unfortunately see that with History Pack, but I think that because of that, they're probably going to be spending more time and attention making sure that it's good. So.
It goes to show as well. Like when I spoke to the owner of Rock and Bowl, who was the local game store in Lille, I asked him, what was the impact of the French History Pack, and he was like, "Well, as soon as we released it, and he admitted, the French don't want to speak another language, and rightly so. You grow up learning your own language, so." As soon as that product was released, their players increased, and the French Discord went skyrocketed almost. So such a good thing.
Like it's just accessibility. Like it's good to see. I'm happy that they're doing this.
How many people out there listening to this would buy into another card game that's brand new, that's not in your language? Like
no, exactly.
Less than 1% of the people listening. Like maybe there's a couple people out there like who are crazy like me who buy like a Japanese card game that's in Japanese, but like how many of you actually are playing it? Like I bought the Shadowverse Evolve game, like I bought some booster boxes and some stuff because I like Shadowverse, but I'm not playing it. Like I would have to like look up translations of all the cards. I don't speak Japanese or read Japanese. Like it's such like a daunting thing to ask. Simultaneous release for both the starter decks, which I think is like one of the most important things, the starter decks as well as the booster set, is crazy. And like I was saying before, I think this set is great for new players. And so like just like the fact that it's also releasing all these other languages is really big. I think this is one of the sets that actually will probably like markedly will increase the global player base for Flesh and Blood. So I think it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
I'm just holding out for languages outside of the Latin alphabet. I would love. Yeah, there's one other thing that we can sort of touch on. I think probably before we should wrap this up. But Kel, do you want to head this one? I think you're probably the most directly excited about it. Not to say that I'm not.
I mean, I'm very excited about it, and I've also had like a lot of interaction with the Japanese community already. Of course, we're talking about Japan. It's something that we saw last year as kind of like a grassroots movement in Japan, in both I think Osaka and was it Okinawa and Osaka, that were like there's like these groups of players who are just picking up Flesh and Blood because they want to play it, and it's this once again the situation where like they're just have to struggle through the English, even though like a lot of them don't properly speak or read English, which is fair. And because of their interest, because of I think last year we had one of the first official like organized play stores in Japan. Japan is now going to be an official thing. It literally says Flesh and Blood is officially coming to Japan. Early access begins Q1 2023, which is now, which is great. And they have this article which is both in English and in Japanese, which is also great. Japanese listeners out there, I'm very curious, is the Japanese on here like good? Is it like written well? Because I think if it's written well, that gives me a lot of confidence for like the eventual translation for the cards. But yeah, essentially they have a roadmap, and I'll kind of quickly go over the roadmap because I know it's not super interesting to a lot of folks. I think the most interesting thing is the last part, but they're they're starting in Q1 2023. There's going to be gem retailer accounts in Japan, gem IDs, welcome events, armory events, all that kind of stuff, and then English product will be available on a wider scale in Japan. And then in Q2, they have Tier 1 and Tier 2 organized play, which means like skirmishes and Road to Nationals, as well as like pre-release events, which I think, once again, is very, very awesome. And then Q3 and Q4, at the end of the year, we'll have Pro Tour. So they'll have ProQuest and the Japanese National Championship. So there will be a Japanese Nationals this year, which I think is awesome. And that all goes into next year, I think, where everything fires off like in like full steam, where we have premier OP events hosted by Japan, which would be something like a Calling or a Pro Tour, or maybe even Worlds. Like Worlds Tokyo would be like insane.
Gotcha.
And then also, I think what would be more exciting for most people, even non-Japanese speakers, is that Japanese product will be available in 2024, which I think is incredible. I know I'm gonna want to buy it. Like I have a bunch of like Japanese like Magic cards. I think I shared with these guys earlier my foil Japanese Dak Faden that I have. It's sweet. And so yes, I would love to get like foil Japanese E-Strike or like a Japanese tunic, like that kind of stuff would be super sick. So and all of this is obviously surrounded by the Japanese Flesh and Blood community, who have also all been super cool to me, as I've chatted with a couple of them. So I think it's awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Definitely want to go to like a Japanese Calling or
That'd be so good,
Pro Tour or something. That would be sick. Even if I don't do coverage or whatever, it'd be an awesome vacation just to go to Japan. And this is like where I would book out like an extra couple weeks, right? So I'd go do the thing and then just like do all the stuff, like do all the stuff in Japan.
Too right, yeah.
It would be just like a nice excuse to finally pull the trigger on that trip.
Oh man, I'm so looking forward to it. It's gonna be cool. I've never been to Japan, and I can just like I watch a lot of like travel vlogs for not just Japan, but a lot of them for Japan, and it's gonna be sweet. So hopefully I can rope some buddies into coming to Japan with me.
Oh god, yeah. Oh yeah. Well, what my girlfriend wants to go, so I know I should be able to rope her into it. Oh, go to Japan. Oh, there just happens to be a Flesh and Blood event there going on, love.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. You got to be like, you know what? Let's go on a vacation, you and me. Let's go to Japan and like do all this planning and be like, oh, sorry, I'm actually going to be busy these days because there's a Flesh and Blood thing happening. She's gonna be like, you bastard.
That's okay. Go and climb Mount Fuji. Yeah. You go and do Mount Fuji. I'll just play Azalea.
So, in like the broader scope, other than just being personally very excited, the broader scope here is that Flesh and Blood is growing like as a world game, and getting into the Japanese market is like a big deal because it is a like very, very strong market like for card games. So yeah, this is a great sign for Flesh and Blood. The fact that the Japanese market wants the game, like it's not like Flesh and Blood, like LSS, like cramming themselves in. This is like where the Japanese players are like, give us the game, we really want it. And that's a really, really good sign. So,
and historically, they they've had some really good card game players from there as well. So so the world is gonna fear the players that come out of Japan as well. So it's gonna mix things up a bit, that's for sure.
So yeah, that's one of the exciting things. I think we'll see that possibly this year because in that roadmap we had Japanese nationals happening in about quarter three, which means that there's a very likely chance that Japanese players this year could qualify for Worlds. So we will have possibly, I'm not sure if everything lines up perfectly, but I assume it would, that we will have Japanese players at Worlds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's going to be sweet.
Yeah.
It's
the more countries,
such an interesting turn of events. I'm glad that they're doing it. Like you said, it's good for just globally.
Yeah, it's just great for the game. Like even if you don't like care about like the Japanese language cards or whatever, like it's just good for the game. So yeah.
Sorry, Az, I cut you off there.
I was going to say, yeah, the more nationalities that are involved with it, it's if you've never sat across the table from a Japanese person or what have you, it's just like you don't know what they're thinking, you don't know their sort of habits or anything. It's just like when you play someone who's from a completely different country, it's almost like an entirely new experience because their mindset and their way of thinking is completely different to yours. In its entirety. The Japanese language, is backwards. So they think of they think of things in a different order, don't they? In comparison to English, so it's a completely different mindset almost. So yeah, it's just really interesting to me, that whole thing, international combat as such.
Yeah, I mean, like even like different areas of the world have their own metas. Like
exactly.
Like certain decks do better in certain places, and
I remember seeing somewhere somebody was talking about, it might have been on Reddit, somebody was saying like, oh yeah, over in like their local game store in the UK, it was like one hero was very like overrepresent. I think it was like Bolton. Like people were like, Saber Bolton, like combo Bolton is like a menace at our local game store. And I was like, that's actually super cool. I like that.
Yeah. Nobody can deal with a Lumina Go Boomina. They're just like, yeah, okay, great.
It's it'll be interesting to see, like, I don't know what sort of happens now that it's being opened up to, like as said, like just a whole different culture of people.
Exactly. Culture, that's the word. Yeah, just completely different culture of people. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it. It's gonna be really cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So great things on the horizon for Flesh and Blood.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But with that, that was kind of everything that we had on the docket today, right, boys?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah,
I mean, Outsiders is just going to be awesome. Oh, one other thing. It's just something we can extrapolate. It's kind of a bummer. We're probably not going to get a world premiere event for Outsiders at this point.
No.
I don't think. We've kind of seen a little bit of the roadmap, and we've seen a lot of the things, and it doesn't look like we'll have one, which is unfortunate. I don't know if it's part of them wanting to cut back, because I do know that they said they wanted to cut back on like the number of events that people had to travel to. Those are my favorite events, so it's kind of a bummer if that's why we're not getting the world premiere event, or maybe they just want to do one world premiere event and that'll be the next draft set. I don't know. We'll see. But either way,
maybe it's like a once per year dealie.
It also could be that the fact that Channel Fireball, or I guess I should say Card Shop Live, they're not running the events anymore. So it could be that could also be factored into it. And maybe the tournaments are going to be more expensive to run now that Star City Games is doing most of them. I'm not really sure. But either way,
that puts more emphasis for us, at least, on Worlds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That's where we'll be.
Yeah, I mean, we're still in January here, beginning of the year, but for those of you listening or watching, if you want a chance to meet all three of us, Flesh and Blood Worlds, it's probably going to be one of your best shots.
I'm very specifically booking off time. I'm saving vacation time just so that I can book that off, so that I can go and hang out with people, because the last one, I had a lot of people message me directly and being like, "Oh, this was so much fun! Look at all this stuff we're doing. Look at all these people we're meeting." I'm like, "That's cool."
Yeah.
Az and I did get a couple people, even though we said it on the podcast. They're like, "Oh, is Bill here?" And we're like, "No, no."
Unfortunately, not. Because we met Bill but taller and Bill but a lady as well.
Yeah.
So they were asking about you, of course, but
very important members of the worldwide Bill community.
Yeah.
Well, we played a bunch of games with Olivia and went out to dinner and stuff, but we did run into Bill but taller. He was pretty tall, I will say that.
From what I've seen, I've never met him in person either, but I've heard that he is a tall boy. So
he's taller than me. I'm not the tallest. I'm like 5'11" or so. I'm definitely not quite 6. I'm like 5'11" or so, but he was definitely taller than that. So
yeah, I'm like 5'10", maybe 5'11" on a good day.
yeah, we're probably the same. We're probably close to the same. But yeah, you know who actually is tall? This is just completely random. Not a lie. Tall Timmy is actually incredibly tall. Like,
That's
Oh
what I've
yes,
heard.
yeah.
and then also I didn't actually go talk to him, but I think Rudy from Alpha Investments was at one of the events that I went to. Also very tall. Like,
Yeah.
doesn't look like it
I've
by how he
heard
films,
that as well. Yeah,
but he's definitely like 6+, 6 something. Like, he's very tall.
that's crazy.
Which is
Yeah.
not what I
'Cause
would
in
have
his
expected.
in his videos, I don't know what it is. Like you were saying, just the way that he films them. Like I didn't get the idea necessarily that he was short, but I didn't think that he was like tall.
I think he just uses a really tall tripod.
Must be.
And you can't really tell based on the scale of his bookshelf in the back. So the bookshelf must be a really tall bookshelf.
Yeah. And
Um,
his pallets of sealed product.
right. Yeah. Exactly.
You also have
Never
to have
seen one of those
the
in person.
camera. You have to have the camera higher up as well, because apparently doesn't wear any trousers, doesn't wear any pants or something.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Does his videos in his
Wait.
in his briefs.
Wait. You guys wear pants?
Well,
I don't wear pants.
I guess it depends on what your definition of pants is.
Brilliant.
Anything below the waist?
Anything? Like no legs?
Nothing at all.
Well, okay. My legs have hair on them, if that counts.
Oh, okay.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, mine do too.
Okay.
Like a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are now
Anyway.
officially in tangent territory.
In the
So we are
weeds.
officially in the arse North Step.
The Arsenal step.
Deep in the arsenal step.
Yeah.
But yeah, does anybody have anything cool just to sign off with for the Arsenal step? My cool thing is basically just judging on Saturday. On Sunday. But yeah, Kel got a nice present for anybody who follows Grand Archive.
I've been I don't know how much I'm going to go into it this year. I've been really thinking about what I want to do for 2022 or 2023. We're not in 2022 anymore. And obviously a lot of more flesh and blood, growing the community in the game are always one of my big things. But I've just been a little bit interested in looking at some other things, both dead card games and otherwise. And Grand Archive is my most anticipated game of the year. It's a game that I have sort of worked with the devs on with a little collaboration. We have a card in this set that is a collaboration. It's one of my original characters, Katsumi, is in the set as the card Korhazi Courier. So it's an uncommon in the set. You can pull her, play her, draft her, which is great. It's a good card too. And the devs sent me this as an early little thing to open up and showcase for everyone. So by the time this video comes out, this podcast comes out, it'll be my last video because I plan on publishing this on Monday. But it's going to be a lot of fun. So they sent me this. This is one of the Kickstarter boxes. But I do want to tell everyone, since this is a Kickstarter game, a lot of Kickstarter games get gouged the hell out of for the Kickstarter product. This is probably going to be sold on the secondary market. Not this version. This version is mine. I'm opening it and playing with these cards. But sealed boxes of this will likely be scalped for hundreds of dollars. Unless you specifically want to collect the Kickstarter version, do not buy them. Buy the unlimited version, the Ultra version, which comes out in April, one of the two, and they're only $80. There's a bunch of stores that have them on pre-order already. You can buy them for $80. Don't pay $600 for this. Buy one for $80. Literally the exact same cards. In fact, the unlimited edition has some like alternate art from this version. So anyway, Grand Archive's cool. I did a live stream of it with Ian, just kind of teaching him how to play. It's a lot of fun. If you like unit-based card games, I highly recommend it. It is not a Magic clone. It is different. So it's a unit-based game with different resource system. I would say the combat is a little bit maybe more reminiscent of like a Hearthstone, I guess, where you choose your unit and then you pick what you want to attack. There is no like, I block your guy. There kind of is. There's like an intercept mechanic, but only certain dudes have it. It's like Hearthstone, basically.
Yeah.
So it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And I recommend it. So that's
That's a good point though for Kickstarter games and just being aware of the market that sort of surrounds them. Because something that happened in recent memory that I have not heard about since. Anybody remember Disney Arcana?
Or Lorcana?
Oh yeah.
Lorcana, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there were eBay listings for this like exclusive promo card that were like up for like $3,000, like
Mickey
a
Mouse
not
card, wasn't it?
insignificant amount of money. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have not seen anybody even reference it since.
Lorcana will be coming out this year. We don't really know anything more about it, to be honest. They've been pretty tight-lipped.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, it looks to me like a Magic Butt game, which is it's Magic but Disney.
Yeah.
We'll see. I made a top 5 games of 2023 video, and it was on the list because I'm very curious to see what becomes of it. It's a Disney TCG. It'll 100% make an impact on the industry. Whether it's a good game or not, we have yet to see, but people will buy this up because it's Disney. I even know some Flesh and Blood adjacent people are already making podcasts about it. Flake is making a Lorcana podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so like some people are already on the bandwagon. I'm at the very opposite side. I'm very hesitant. I did feature it in, like I said, my top 5 games of 2023, but my perspective is more of I'm very curious to see what happens with it, and I'll maybe buy like a starter deck or 2, and then try it out. So we'll see. It's for me, it's not the same as like Grand Archive, where Grand Archive, I already know the game is great. I love it. I love the art, and this is a game that I will be playing and making decks and content for. Lorcana, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's definitely something to like keep an eye out for. And yeah, like I can't comment on the actual quality of the game, obviously, because it's not even really out yet. But it is still something that lends a lot of credence to the maybe wait a bit before spending thousands of dollars on a Mickey Mouse promo.
Yeah, like
yes,
I can already predict what's going to happen. What's going to happen is the company making it, I think it's Ravensburger, are going to vastly underestimate the ravenous demand of Disney fans. Not necessarily fans of Lorcana, just Disney fans who are just going to buy everything up because it's Disney. And what's going to happen is it's going to launch, and then all the Disney fans are going to just devour it. And then there's going to be like, everyone's going to be like, oh, there's not enough boxes to order. And then they're going to be scalped on the secondary market. Boxes are going to be like $500 or more. And then they're going to take too long to print more waves. And by the time it comes out, people might not care unless you're a Disney fan. The Digimon TCG had a similar thing. They fortunately were able to stabilize a bit, but literally same thing happened. Not enough product, and like boxes being scalped for like hundreds of dollars for the first set, just because like people couldn't buy them.
They just straight up were not available.
So I imagine that's what's going to happen for Lorcana, and you'll see a gross overcorrection. You'll probably get a crap load of boxes released after the first wave. So all the people who are spending like $500 a box, probably going to feel pretty bad when you can get them for like $70 or something.
Yeah, I mean that is kind of what happened as like a last input here, but that's kind of what happened with Monarch, wasn't it? Like Monarch got way overprinted because the game kind of exploded around that time, and
I think so. Yeah,
most of the other sets, the 3 sets previously, kind of like all of a sudden sold out. So LSS was like, oh, like shit, we got to get on this.
Yeah.
And then, you can still get, like, my LGS has boxes of first edition Monarch they were listed at 500 Canadian each, but they've since been steadily trending downwards. And basically once they hit like, I think right now they're at 300. If they hit like 230, then I'll probably buy them.
I bought a couple for $100 each last year at one point. They were just, I think it was Team Covenant maybe were selling some, and they're like $100 for 2 or 200 for 2 of them, and plus some promos. And I was like, sure. And then I made a video on it. Like I just made it. Like, that'll be a fun video. The box sucked, by the way. I got like it was like awful. It was terrible. But at least the gloves. I think I got the Ironhide gauntlets cold foil. At the time I was bummed, but now I can use them in my Arachne deck because Arachne really doesn't have a very good glove piece of equipment.
No.
So I was like,
that's true.
Yeah. Though they might, because for the Pro Tour in Baltimore, they released 2 images of like assassin-y things on the Pro Tour page. And there's a dude like this with like, he's got like daggers or whatever. It looks very
like shoot crees, aren't they? Like shoot cree things, aren't they?
It looks very Assassin's Creed.
Mm-hmm.
This could be the art for like a fan of knives or something, but it's oddly highlighting the gloves. So I'm like, I hope it's just a really baller like glove piece of equipment.
Yeah,
that'd be sick.
So
I'd be into that.
Anyway,
Anyway, yeah. Let us consider that to be the point to wrap up.
Yes.
This has been a lot of discussion, but there was a lot to discuss. So for anybody who's still tuned in, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. Each and every one of you. And let us know in the comments what you are most excited about for Uprising. Is it something that we already know? Is it something that you have a speculation about? Something that you'd like to see in Outsiders? There's a lot going on right now, and I'd love to hear what you guys have to think about it. Yeah, it's going to be super cool. But
it's coming
but yeah,
up,
so
man.
yeah, like sooner than it feels even.
Not your brother Jim said he was placing his orders for it like just the other day. So
oh, nice.
Yeah,
Lovely.
well, it's do we know? I think we do know what the actual
24th, I think.
date is.
March 24th, I believe.
March 24th. Yeah, so it's screaming towards us. I'm like
spoiler
waiting
season?
patiently to see if I get an email from LSS.
So someone actually messaged me. They're like, "Do you know if you get a spoiler card yet?" And I'm like, we're not going to know till like mid-February at the earliest. Spoiler season
that lines up with the last one.
March 4th. Spoiler season officially starts. Yeah.
So really looking forward to it.
Oh, I you know what? I'll be happy if they give me anything, but I can't help but think of like all the cool stuff that's going to be in here. We're going to get a new Assassin Legendary. We're going to get the other Marvel cards. Oh, I'm so stoked, man.
Yeah. It's going to be so cool. But yeah, anyway, I am Bill from the Spike Feeders. You can find me on Twitter at BillTSF, and you can also find me on YouTube at Spike Feeders Fab. We do live gameplay, edited. It's pretty high quality, lots of fun, and you should go check it out if that interests you. And to continue signing off, I'll throw it over to Az this time.
Oh yeah, so I'm Az from Go Again Gaming, Go Again Gaming AZ on Twitter, and Go Again Gaming on YouTube. And I can't wait to see what's going to happen in Outsiders. Azalea's one of the main heroes, obviously, of the set, and that's what my channel is pretty much all about these days. So yeah, hopefully we're involved. The cult's involved in spoiler season to some degree. It would be a I've got strong high hopes about it, but yeah, it's going to be good nonetheless to see Ranger get more cards and Ranger Assassin get more cards as well. Very, very hyped about that codex, even though we've only seen it. That's the first card. I've already figuring out lines that you can use with it and stuff. So yeah, just very excited overall.
If there's a new Azalea specialization, they have to kind of give it to you. I mean, like, they don't have to, but they kind of have to, right? Like, it's the Azalea cult, right? Like, you have to give the Azalea specific card to them. If there's an Azalea specialization, you gotta give it to them.
Yeah, we're well positioned. That's it. We're well positioned, I guess, for that.
No one else who should get it. Like,
exactly. It's like Levia. It's like Levia getting a new, Levia getting support and Man Sant not getting it.
Right?
Not getting like the new version of Levia, or like her new specialization, or the legendary piece. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, watch your space. Yeah, I'm sure. Regardless of what happens, it's going to be awesome. Spoiler season, it always is. But yeah, Kel, over to you, mate.
Yeah, I'm Kel, Red Zone Rogue, and I could not be more excited for Outsiders. I think I said somewhere that like this set is like made for me. Like I could not be more excited.
Oh yeah.
Ranger, Assassin. I even love Ninja. I don't talk about Ninja a lot, but Katsu was literally the first hero I ever played in Flesh and Blood. When they sent me the hero decks, I played Katsu Robin played Dorinthia. She kicked my butt, but still, Katsu was the first hero I ever played. So
I remember that story. You're just like, what the hell do these Kadachis do? And you're swinging a sword, and I'm attacking for one.
My stupid Kadachi, stupid Kadachi's attack for 1. Your sword attacks for 3, and it costs the same. What the hell?
What the hell? Yeah.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Truly unfair.
Kadachi's terrible. They suck, man. But no, like, but I'll extend that to say like it's like the Living Legends podcast set, right? There's like Assassin. There's Ranger, and then there's also Benji. Like inexplicably, just Benji is in the set. Like it's almost like they shoehorned it in to be perfect for our podcast.
Yeah,
it's like
that's true.
No one thought Ninja at all. No one would have guessed Ninja. Not like me or DM Armada or like Dead Summer. Or no one who does like lore or any speculative content. No one would have done it. But they're just like, yeah, it's Benji. Benji's in the set now. It's like brilliant. Perfect. I could have made it more perfect unless I put a prism in the set. Like,
yeah,
like
that would have been crazy. To be fair,
actually crazy. That would have been actually crazy. Like I'd been like, what the hell are they doing? What's this a light illusionist doing in the set? But anyway, you can find me on Twitter and YouTube and stuff.
Nice.
But that'll be that. We're going to talk a lot more about Outsiders, undoubtedly. Up till
loads more stuff.
Three months from now, when we're complaining about Outsiders Limited and Azalea being too overpowered, and because she makes it so you can't take any actions or whatever. I don't know. It's going to happen. Something's going to happen.
I'll be loving life.
Yeah,
be loving life.
Yeah, and then all the Azalea stands can be all like hipstery about it. Like I liked Azalea before she was cool, and then all of like the people who just do whatever like flavor of the month tournament winning deck is like, I always liked Azalea. I always believed in Azalea. Never mind the fact that I played I played 5 for months and then Briar for months.
Oh, it really annoys me. Do you know that?
It's gonna happen, man.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah,
gentrification feels like.
Yeah, exactly. I always loved Azalea, but I played Briar during spoiler season. Yeah, of course you did. Yeah, 0 cost go again for 79 damage per hit. Channel Mount Heroic. Do one. Jason.
Yeah. Anyway, once again, thank you guys for joining me for this fantastic conversation. Thank you, the listener at home or the watcher at home, for hanging out with us. This is another fantastic episode, like personally, if I do say so myself. But stay well, stay safe, and we will catch you all in the next episode.
Jason!
Jason!